On this episode, we talk with the head of the Washington Area Bicyclist Association about Vision Zero. Then we drop in on the Vision Zero announcement. Stay tuned.
We're in Washington, D.C., talking with Greg Billing, who's Executive Director of WABA. What does WABA stand for?
WABA is the Washington Area Bicyclist Association.
And what do you do?
We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a membership organization, but we do advocacy and education. We're trying to make biking safe and popular in the District of Columbia, in Maryland and Virginia.
We just had a press conference that ended a few minutes ago. What were people talking about?
Today, Mayor Bowser announced her 2-year action plan for Vision Zero. Vision Zero is the initiative to end traffic fatalities and serious injuries in Washington, D.C. by 2024. So this is a 2-year plan that shows how MPD, DDOT, and many other city agencies are going to work together to end traffic deaths.
Where'd the idea for Vision Zero, where did it get started?
Vision Zero is an idea that's come out of some northern European countries, especially Sweden, that looks at the system of our transportation network and really questions how the system has been designed so that when individuals make mistakes that people aren't killed. That's a really important shift in how we think about traffic fatalities. Often we blame the driver, we blame a pedestrian, we blame a bicyclist, but we don't really take a step back and say, was this road created in a way that would actually encourage safe operation of all of those modes, and so that when somebody makes a mistake, that the speeds are slow and that the design of the streets are different so that people are not seriously injured or killed. It's a very different approach, and it's been very successful in Sweden, and that's why a lot of U.S. cities, including San Francisco, Chicago, Portland, Seattle, and now D.C., are using this approach to address this epidemic.
What was WABA's role in helping draw up the Vision Zero plan?
So we've been involved in Vision Zero for about 18 months. We started calling on the city to adopt the Vision Zero plan early on in the mayoral election during the primaries. And so when Mayor Bowser took office in March, or last January, she announced in March that Vision Zero was going to be a commitment of her administration and that she would put together a diverse group of city agencies to work on the plan and release it this fall. So we were pulled in kind of later in the planning process, but there was also a public input where anybody in the region or in the city could give their input about safety issues, and that they could look at street design, they could look at enforcement, education needs. So we gave some comments later in the process, and the plan reflects some of those. So I'm really excited to kind of see what is finally in the plan.
Why is it important to bring in the diverse group of agencies and the public and groups such as yours when you're drawing up a plan like this?
Well, Vision Zero is a challenge to the status quo. It says that traffic deaths are preventable and that we can change our public policy and decisions we make to end traffic fatalities and serious injuries. And so what it is asking is that many more city agencies, organizations, individuals get involved in that process. And so you need to take in a lot of consideration and feedback about where are all the small little changes we can make that really at the end of the day will keep people alive who use our streets.
What sort of targets or mileposts are there in the plan?
So the plan released today is a 2-year action plan. So there's not much time to sit around and wait. Many of the targets have 3, 6, 12, 18, and 24-month deadlines. So that's not a lot of time to wait to get to action. This is really an action agenda. One of the big initiatives of this is to also open a lot of the data. So Vision Zero is a data-driven approach. So we're going to start to see near real-time data on traffic citations, on crashes, and on fatalities. So we really can tell throughout the year, are we hitting the actual marks, which is reducing death and injury? If we're not, we're going to have to readjust plans. And this really is a shift in focus, and the priority is ending death. And so sometimes that means we prioritize some projects over others or some initiatives over others, trying to get that to that number of 0.
District of Columbia is the center of a sizable region. WABA is more than just the district, it's the whole region. How do you see the Vision Zero idea spreading to other jurisdictions in the area?
Well, even if no other jurisdiction in the region were to commit to Vision Zero, DC, I don't think, can achieve Vision Zero without cooperation. Hundreds of thousands of visitors and commuters enter the district every day, many of them in cars, and they have to be part of the work too. So WABA is a regional organization, and we today called on the region to extend the Vision Zero commitment. We're going to host a summit in 2016. It'll be a great time to have a status update on where projects are and some of the deadlines in the 2-year plan, but also a chance to really raise the issue regionally. For the most part, DC has a very low but persistent number of traffic fatalities. Regionally, that number is much higher, and bicyclists and pedestrians actually account for a disproportionate rate of those fatalities. So we have a lot more work to do in the suburbs.
Well, good morning, everybody. What a beautiful December day in Washington, D.C. I'm pleased to see you all here, and I'm even more pleased to talk about Vision Zero, which is necessary not only in our city, but in cities across our nation to keep people safe. We know over the past 2 decades, we've seen annual traffic fatalities in our city reduced. And reduced very significantly, but still too many people are dying as a result of traffic accidents. In the meantime, we have more modes of transportation, more people using our roads, more people using our sidewalks, more people riding the bus, more people taking advantage of our bike lanes, more movements, period. And that's good news. That means that our city is vibrant, our city is growing. But with all of those new movements, we just this year, we've seen 24 fatalities related to traffic. Any loss of life is unacceptable, especially if there are things that we can do systematically to prevent those losses. That's why we talk not about reducing traffic fatalities, but getting to zero. And that's why we sign on to President Obama's Vision Zero initiative. Our goal is to get to zero deaths and zero injuries by the year, 2024. And we can do this by being steadfast in our investments and steadfast in implementing those investments. That way, we create safe streets, we protect our most vulnerable residents, and we prevent dangerous driving. So we know that we have work to do. We have our charge laid out for us. And today, we want to talk to you in more specifics about what our Vision Zero action plan is. For several months, Director Dormshow has been leading a task force made up of D.C. government agencies, community advocates, and residents. Their planning was driven by a simple question: what will it take to make people safe when they walk, bike, and drive in Washington, D.C.? They developed a plan that incorporates what we all know, the 3 E's: engineering, making sure the roadway environment is conducive to safety; educating the public, as well as enforcing the laws that keep us safe. So we added another E, evaluation. How do we evaluate the work that we're doing and figuring out how it leads to safety? So I want to thank Leif. I want to thank Greg Billing and WABA and Joe Reiner from All Walks DC, who contributed to the development of our plan. And I want to especially thank residents who are going to and fro. I tell the folks that work for me all the time that nobody knows how to engage their environment better than the neighbor. So they know where the raised sidewalk is. They know where the blind spots are. They know the streets where people repetitively speed at high rates. They know when the trees aren't being trimmed or when the lights are too dim. So we cannot create an action plan without the residents of the District of Columbia. So we know that there are some operational things that we want to start to put in place today. We identify laws and regulations that need to be updated. And the things about laws and regulations, they too get public input. So sometimes we get it exactly right, and sometimes we'll change it based on the input we received. We'll work with the members of the council, the Pedestrian Advisory Council as well. The council recently held a hearing on Vision Zero in the legislative package that goes with it. So I look forward to their cooperation and their support as that package moves forward. I was at a meeting earlier today in Montgomery County where we're talking about transportation in the region. And I can say without a doubt that everybody recognizes that if this city and this region is to reach its true potential, growth, substantial growth, you know what I tell people? Everybody can't drive. And if everybody recognizes that and we want people to move to other modes of transportation, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make people safe when they walk, when they bike, when they ride transit, when they look for parking spaces, when they drive in Washington, D.C. And that is what our action plan is all about. The members of this community have been especially dogged about Maryland Avenue and the traffic that it carries. The commuters that come into our city, and we love people that come into our city, but we want them to follow the rules as well. And so I want to thank all the members of the ANC commissions here. There may be adjacent commissions here. I know that Phil Timjian, is that right? Is the chair of ANC 6A. Phil, where are you? All right, thank you, Phil, for your leadership. And I also, are there other ANC commissioners here? We'll give them a round of applause anyway, because we know that this has been a very significant issue for them. I can tell you, having knocked on a lot of doors on Maryland Avenue, that the issue that came up time and time again was the speeding, and how, and Tommy will know this and know this well, that families want to feel safe. And the other thing that they will tell you is DDOT's been working on this a long time. Isn't that right, Tommy? I know you haven't been here that long, Leif, but just pretend like you have. Because the residents are tired of waiting for action. And so we're at Maryland Avenue, but we could be on Martin Luther King Avenue, or we could be on Alabama Avenue, or South Dakota Avenue, or Georgia Avenue, where I also hear from people about, hey, you know, Maryland Avenue is not a highway. We live here. Slow down. And so these are the types of concerns and considerations that lead us to the work that we will do in this action plan. So there's nothing like a good plan, but there's nothing like some action. And so that is what we want to be able to report to you in a meaningful way so that we don't return here. And somebody says to me, DDOT's been talking about this for a long time, and nothing has happened. So I can't promise you overnight transformation, but I can promise you that we will be able to report to you on feasible plans related to these actions. So with that, I am pleased to introduce you to other speakers, the first of which will be our Director of the Department of Transportation, who's been doing a great job on some really tough issues. And he's going to talk about the department's steps in this direction, and also acknowledge the many great people that he's been working with on the Vision Zero task force within the government. And I know we'll also hear from WABA. Leif?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Bowser has made it very clear to her agency directors that the Vision Zero plan requires all hands on deck. Over 30 agencies came together to identify the most effective strategies and the most urgent remedies for hazardous traffic conditions in the District of Columbia. While planning for Vision Zero, we conducted surveys all over the district. And the residents told us that 45% of the people who we spoke to knew someone who had been killed or seriously injured in a crash. 45% told us that they had had that type of tragic experience on the roadways. What does this plan say? What does Vision Zero look like on the ground? That's really why we're here today on Maryland Avenue, because there are elements of Vision Zero incorporated into some of the interim safety measures that we've taken here. This corridor has been the site of many serious crashes where vulnerable travelers have been seriously injured. It also has abnormal rates of speed and chronic speeding in both directions at very high levels above the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. It's well documented. It's something we've been working with the community to address for many years, and we've got more improvements on the way. Our action plan includes a range of temporary, intermediate, and permanent engineering treatments to calm traffic on this street and streets like it across the district. We will reclaim public space and add neighborhood amenities that simultaneously reduce vehicular speeds. Our plan also prioritizes using better data. We are already analyzing crash statistics and resident reports, but we will get additional information that will help us understand the true nature of risk on our roadways. We're looking at how the posted speed limit and actual vehicle speeds, the number and width of lanes, the number of people driving, biking, and walking, and the geometry of the roadway will affect the frequency and severity of crashes. Using this data, we can tailor our enforcement actions by adding additional photo enforcement technologies and other types of safety mitigation measures. We can determine if greater outreach or education and awareness is necessary for a particular hotspot, using the data to really tailor the types of interventions that we can make for positive change. We can also install new infrastructure, such as the new traffic signal that we have here at Maryland and 10th that was just operationalized in the last several months. By taking into account the volume of all travelers on this street, we can see that this new traffic signal, street markings, this street closure where we're currently situated, will allow for amenities like the bike share corral, a safe crossing, shorter crosswalk connections here at the intersection. We're really trying to take an interdisciplinary approach to solving these traffic issues. That's the direction that the Vision Zero plan is taking us. The safety trend is moving in the right direction, as the mayor discussed, but we have a low but persistent number of fatalities in the city that we need to move towards zero and ultimately to zero. Okay, no one was injured, don't worry. After careful review of data, interagency communication, and public engagement, we have an action plan that has 68 discrete and specialized interventions that range from policy, enforcement, data analysis, and engineering, all to improve safety. It's time to use the action plan to hold ourselves, DDOT, and all of our agency partners and community partners and associations responsible and accountable for the lives that we want to save on the city streets. We intend to meet the vision of this plan in 10 years. With that, I'd like to invite one of our stakeholder partners to the podium. Mr. Greg Billings is the Executive Director of the Washington Area Bicycle Association, just one of many groups that we've been working with since February to develop this plan, and someone that we will be working with on a go-forward basis to implement the plan. Greg?
Good morning. It's my honor to stand here today with Mayor Bowser and DDOT Director Dormsjo for the release of the 2-year action plan for Vision Zero. Today is a major step forward for Mayor Bowser's commitment to ending traffic fatalities and serious injuries in the District of Columbia by 2024. I would like to acknowledge and recognize the extraordinary leadership of the Mayor and Director Jormsjo in bringing together a diverse group of city agencies to collaborate on the Vision Zero Action Plan. DC joins a number of cities in the United States, including San Francisco, New York City, Portland, and Seattle, in their commitments to ending traffic death. The Vision Zero Action Plan redoubles our efforts to make the streets safer and friendlier for pedestrians, bicyclists, transit riders, and drivers alike. On June 11th, I stood at the corner of Wisconsin Ave and 37th Street in Glover Park. Minutes before I arrived, a delivery truck had turned on Calvert Street, striking and killing 79-year-old Peggy Ruth Dickey, who was crossing the street in the crosswalk. It was the second pedestrian fatality in DC in just 2 days. I was in Glover Park that evening for an ANC meeting about a DDOT street calming project. Vision Zero became very real to me that day. In 2024, 26 people were killed walking, biking, or driving in DC. And over the last 5 years, 7 bicyclists were killed, and over 1,200 were seriously injured while biking in the district. We talk about numbers, but we cannot forget that each number represents a person who leaves behind a family, friends, and a community stricken with sadness and grief. We can improve our safety culture and end this pain. To achieve Vision Zero, we must challenge the status quo. Vision Zero compels us to confront the system and its designers that allow traffic deaths to be a cost of doing business. Data-driven enforcement and education will target the most dangerous streets and roadway behaviors. And our streets must be engineered for the safety of all roadway users. People make mistakes, but our mistakes should not be deadly. Street crossings for pedestrians must be made safer. We need a network of protected bike lanes and low-stress bikeways, and speed limits must be lowered and enforced regularly. We can no longer put convenience over safety. The Washington Area Bicyclist Association, with our 5,600 members and 70,000 supporters, is fully committed to achieving Vision Zero. In 2016, WABA will organize 8 community events, 1 in each ward of the city, designed to engage our neighbors on Vision Zero goal. We will organize 4 neighborhood safety audits, teaching residents to critically examine their streets and the communities and make recommendations for safety improvements. Additionally, we will host 4 safety street community events and workshops for families. The District of Columbia can achieve Vision Zero by 2024, but not alone. Every day, hundreds of thousands of commuters and visitors from Maryland and Virginia enter the district. Regionally, 425 drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists are killed annually. And people who walk and bike represent 25% of all regional traffic fatalities, a disproportionate rate. Engineering, enforcement, and education must be consistent across jurisdictions. We are calling on elected officials, transportation officials, communities across the region to follow Mayor Bowser's bold leadership on Vision Zero. WABA will organize a regional Vision Zero summit in 2016. We will work with a diverse group of stakeholders and organizations to host the summit. We will learn about DC's progress on Vision Zero, learn about best practices from other U.S. cities and international cities, and continue the call for a regional commitment to Vision Zero. I would like to take this opportunity to formally invite the Mayor and Director Jormsjo to attend the 2016 Vision Zero Summit. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to Mayor Bowser and Director Jormsjo for your leadership on Vision Zero. Eliminating traffic deaths in the District of Columbia by 2024 can be achieved. WABA stands with you today in committing to this goal and working with our leaders in the district government to achieve zero traffic deaths and serious injuries. All residents in DC should be able to freely move throughout the city for work and play without the fear of injury or loss of life. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank Greg and all of the leaders, past and present, and members of WABA. I've been at this long enough to remember in this region when we did not have bicycle racks on metro buses, when there were no bike lanes, there was no bike parking, and there certainly was no capital bike share. And so we have come a long way, and not only saying that bicycling is good for recreation and health and fitness, but bicycling is a necessary commute option and a viable commute option in a great city like ours. So let's hear it for WABA. Let me also recognize some folks from my team who are here. And when you get a chance to download the action plan or look through the action plan, you will see all of the members of the Vision Zero task force within the government. But let me acknowledge MPD and Assistant Chief Green for his representation, as well as Chairman Sharper of the DC Taxi Cab Commission, Director Tommy Wells, and your former council member, Tommy Wells, and Director of the DOEE, the award-winning DOEE, and Tommy and our DGS team just went to Paris, where they accepted an award on behalf of all of us, recognizing how green we are. Eric Shaw, who's the director of the Office on Planning, and I also want to recognize Gretchen Brumley, who is the OSSI Director of Student Transportation, so all the young people who are getting around in the mornings working with OSSI. Alexis Taylor, our Office of Disability Rights, and I know that David Glasser is here, who is representing the Department of Motor Vehicles. So all of the directors, let's hear it for them for their work on this project.
Well, first of all, there's a whole principle of a road diet. Okay, so that is the removal of travel lanes to address the travel demand of the current times. And so one of the major issues that we have with speeding is there's too much width on the roadway, so it kind of invites acceleration. So we look at parking, we look at transit service, we look at lane width, and we look at signal timing to factor in whether or not we can lower speed limits, narrow the roadway, the travel lanes, without creating congestion or any other unsafe conditions. So those are the types of factors that we use in our determinations.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.